If you were to see Aunt Yaya back in the day the way I saw her, she was tall. She had a beautiful angular face with high cheekbones, and she had brown eyes. They almost looked like owl eyes, scanning everything. And the way she walked around her room would tell you she held herself in high regard. One weekend, my mom and my dad, they decided that I was going to go to Aunt Yaya's house. I was 9 years old. And once the door closed, she says, "How would you like to change into something that's really comfortable for you?" And what was there were a blouse and a wig. I knew I was a girl. And so that weekend, I got to be me. We went shopping in my outfits. Everyone in the neighborhood knew Yaya, and she would introduce me as her niece.
Would you go home and mention anything like that?
No, she said, when you go home, you have to be what they want. Because if you don't, and they find you out, you will be hurt. She was the one who taught me early on that I have to play the game. Yaya, she had a lifelong friend. And it wasn't until years later that I finally figured out that her friend was her lover and her partner. And you never spoke of that back in the day. Yaya never got the love she was supposed to from the rest of the family. And Yaya wanted me to be everything that she wanted to be if she could live her life over again. She gave me pearls of wisdom. You could string a necklace to the moon and back with everything that she would share. I loved her. She loved me back. And behind that white door became my place to be the little girl that I needed to be.
Welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello, everybody. Good evening on this balmy June 24th. Oh, my gosh. So I want to welcome you to our end of June episode. This is going to be our Pride episode. So that's why, we saw that great video from StoryCorps to start off the program. And I want to welcome you all. I know some of you are watching on Facebook, on Twitch, and even a few of you on YouTube as well. And so we've got a great show for you tonight that's going to cover a lot of Arizona history and other things. Now, today is a really spectacular day I don't say spectacular day in Arizona history. So basically on June 24th, back in 1902, Charles Poston, who is called the father of Arizona because he was a politician, a civil servant. He really lobbied for the territory of Arizona to be formed. He was also the first delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives for the territory of Arizona. Now, he passed away on June 24th in 1902, actually in Melinda's Alley here in downtown Phoenix. And that was our red light district, our Skid Row. And from there, he wound up being buried in the Pioneer Cemetery over near the state capitol. But 100 years to his birth, they decided they wanted to do something that was more appropriate for somebody who was deemed so important for Arizona history. And so he is buried at Poston Butte in Florence, and they buried him in a pyramid to really reflect his interest in a religion called Zoroastrianism. And so that's why if you go to Poston Butte, there is a pyramid there. Now, officiating that event was Governor Hunt, our very first state of Arizona governor. And if you go to Papago Park, he is also entombed in a pyramid in Papago Park. Although I think it was more just because of the show of it as opposed to any interest in other religions. Now, it is also National Bomb Pop Day. Now, these cool, tasty, kind of patriotic, those red, white, and blue treats, those came to be back in the mid-50s during the Cold War as a way to just celebrate. And it's a great way to kick off as we go into that July season, getting ready for July 4th. It is also National Praline Day. And so pralines, you know, those great little pecan milk sugar tasty treats that are kind of synonymous with the South. Well, here's a day to celebrate them. It is also National Handshake Day. Now, I have a feeling that it might be being replaced in a lot of places, probably with either the elbow bump or the fist bump. And it's also a special day because it is the last full moon of 2021. And it is called the Strawberry Moon. And so that's why we have that lovely little luscious red strawberry right there. Now, if this is your first time watching, you might wonder, what can we expect? Well, you know, we're going to have Little Arizona. We're going to talk about some really cool Arizona music history, as well as trivia with our very super special guest tonight. We also have a cocktail, because it wouldn't be happy hour without a cocktail. And then, of course, a show and tell, because I have a house full of stuff and it all has stories. So this is just tied to that. So welcome if this is your first time. My name is Marshall Shore, and I got to Arizona via Brooklyn. I was living and working in Brooklyn about 21 years ago and realized I was tired of the slush, the cold, and all that wind. So I was ready for an adventure. I traded in this beautiful Carnegie building in for a little 1950 branch in South Phoenix when I came here for City of Phoenix. They're in a beautiful new building in South Phoenix as well. And to do that, we had to load everything into a U-Haul, that big orange cube. And, you know, they had the World International Headquarters right here in Arizona. Now, when we moved here, we promptly moved into a 1956 ranch that was oh so many tones of beige. I'm happy to say now it is down to two-tone of seafoam and cantaloupe. I mean, pretty much the house is oh so 1956. All the original tile, the original oven. If you'll notice, there's no window, but it does match the tile. Now, as soon as I got here, all I kept hearing about how there was no history here. But I knew that wasn't true because every time I went somewhere, I would hear so many amazing stories, meet people, see so many great places that really kind of spurred me on to doing exactly this, talking about Arizona history and its many different facets. I also like to think that that post-war boom, all those GIs that either were stationed here, trained here, or passed through on their way to somewhere else, and after the war, they were moving here in huge numbers, and in many cases, looking for a house just like mine. Now, I said my name is Marshall. I'm also known around town as the Hip Historian. And you might wonder, how does one get a name like the Hip Historian? Well, you know, every year we have a celebration for ourselves. And we did that back in 2012 on February 14th. And we launched into a whole story about the Mask of the Yellow Moon, which was an event that ran from 26 to 1955. And so since then, I have gleaned the title Hip Historian, doing a wide variety of lectures, tours, virtual programming, all talking about Arizona. Now, some of you I see have found the chat session. If you'd like to, you're welcome to chat in there. If after the program you think, oh, I wish I had said this, you can always reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, email. All those things are good. Now, if you're watching on Facebook, I will ask you to click on that little share button so people can see all the fun that we're having with Arizona history and all of its diversity. Now, today, so I talk about being from New York, but I actually grew up in a little tiny town in Midwest Indiana. And so I kind of had this affinity for tiny places. My hometown had about 25 people, so pretty much almost anything else is larger than that. And today we are going to talk about Window Rock, which is up in Apache County with a population just under 2,500 folks. Now, in the early 30s, Window Rock was chosen as the capital of the Navajo Nation by John Collier, who was then the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. And you can see why it was named Window Rock, for this lovely wind-blown hole in the rock. Now, it was chosen also because it was very close to Gallup, New Mexico. It was basically a day away by horse. So that's one of the reasons why it was chosen. And it is indeed the capital of the Navajo Nation. And if you ever get there, you can go visit the Navajo Zoo, which holds animals as well as plants that are important to the Navajo culture. They have their own museum, their fairgrounds. There's even a hotel that has a Dene restaurant where you can go have specialties of the community, which I think is pretty cool. And just last week, they actually held Navajo Pride. Now, it started off in 2019 as kind of it kept growing and growing up to where they then had about 3,000 people show up. This was one of the first events after COVID when they were able to launch into doing this. And you can see Sister Navajo with the Grand Canyon chapter of the Sisters of Spiritual Indulgence doing a number in front of the chambers. They also, for the first time, had a parade. And you had all kinds of flags being flown. One of the things I loved is that they also had signs. One of the popular ones was in Navajo that said, "We are sacred." So I look forward to getting a chance. I'm actually looking at maybe doing a trip to Albuquerque and hoping I can make a little jaunt up and go visit Window Rock. Now, it is indeed Arizona History Happy Hour, and it would not be a happy hour without a cocktail. And oh my gosh, have we got a cocktail for you today. So it is called King's Crown. Now, it has a little bit of Crown Royal for obvious reasons, as well as some nice refreshing Aperol, a little bit of lemon juice, and because of the strawberry moon, it has a bit of strawberry. Now, the great thing about when PJ does these, he gives them to me in just a lovely little mason jar that all I have to do is just unscrew. And this time he even gave me garnish. Look at that. I mean, I thought that was so funny, using the strawberry and a little bit of lemon peel that he probably juiced for that lemon, for the lemon juice. And so there indeed is our delicious handcrafted cocktail. Oh, that is so nice and refreshing for a lovely Arizona summer day. Now, through the miracle of modern technology, I am happy to say we are beaming in a very special guest who at this moment, looks like we might be having a bit of a glitch with video somewhere. Let's see. I'm getting a comment. Are people able to see video? Because I see Walt just posted he's having a problem with it. So if anyone else can see video, please let me know, because That's not very good if you can't see what's happening. Oh, so Twitch is fine. Deb, are you watching on Facebook? Okay. Because I was noticing there seemed, okay. Josh, what are you watching on? I'm wondering, because I know Deb is on Facebook. It looks like the Twitch is fine. And so I do apologize for whatever glitch is going on. Okay, so it looks like Pam. Okay, so some folks on Facebook are having a good time. Some folks are not having a good time, it looks like. Okay. Well, we are going to roll on. Walt, you might try on Facebook if you go to Marshall Shore Hip Historian. It should be there as well. And actually, I can post that in the comments. So I do apologize that we are having a small, well, obviously not small glitch. Some folks are fine, some folks are not. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. All right. So we are going to move on, and we are going to bring on Christina. Now, some of you may know Christina by another name. Oops. And there we go. Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. So, okay. So folks that don't know who you are, tell us a little about yourself.
Yes, my name's Christina. I'm a drag king. I go by the name of Justin Deeper Low. I am the current Mr. Tucson Pride, and I've been doing drag for it'll be 4 years in October. I also currently work for the state of Arizona at the Family Assistance Administration, and that's just me in a nutshell.
All right, and what is your drag name?
Justin Deeper Low.
Ah, very good. All right. So now we always have our guests do some fun trivia to kind of move things along, and this is no exception. And so what we're going to do is we have our 10 questions. Now they're all multiple choice. So even if you don't know the answer, just take a guess at it and you'll probably have a good shot of getting it right. Oh, it looks like Doreen was not able to get it on her computer, but then when she went on her phone, it was fine. Okay. So I'm not quite sure what's going off in Facebook land right now. Oh, and it looks like we're now getting it frozen. So it's a lovely day. I'm like, is Mercury in? All right. So now with trivia, you can keep track of your answers either in the chat session. Some people do it on a pen and paper nearby. So you can do it wherever you would like. And it's all good. I see Adrienne says it's frozen for her, so hopefully it unfreezes. Okay, so maybe our glitch is done because it looks like Pam is back on. So, all right. So question number 1. And what we'll do is we'll go through all the questions and answers, and then we'll take an Arizona music break, and then we'll have Justin tell us about the answers and kind of the stories behind them, because I have a feeling there might be some stories attached that have to do with a very recent Pride tour they went on. So, all right. So question 1, Tombstone is known for a famous gunfight at the OK Corral that took place in 1881. How long did it last? Was it A, 2 hours, B, 5 minutes, C, 30 minutes, or D, 30 seconds? So how long did that iconic battle at the OK Corral take place? All right. And Justin, just so you know, I did mute you because we're getting a lot of background noise from the airport. So in case you're trying to say anything, you'll have to unmute yourself. All right. Question 2. What is Arizona's first and longest established LGBTQ organization? Is it A, Phoenix Pride, B, Arizona Gay Rodeo Association, C, Tucson Lesbian and Gay Alliance, or Tucson Pride, or D, Yuma P Flag? So which is the longest established and was the first LGBTQ Pride organization? All right, back in 1902, Sedona, Arizona's name originated from where? A, the Hopi tribe. B, the Europeans who were on a Spanish expedition in 1583. C, the first permanent settler, John James Thompson back in 1876. Or was it Theodore Schnebly who petitioned for a new postal station in the area and named it after his wife? All right, so how did Sedona get its name? I know in the past we actually had Lisa Schnebly on, who that was her grandmother. So we talked a little bit about that. Which planet was discovered at Flagstaff's Lowell Observatory back in 1930? Was it A, Mars, B, Pluto, C, Jupiter, or D, Saturn? All right. So which planet was discovered? And then I think also undiscovered and then rediscovered? Something along that fashion. I'm sure that's part of the story, so I'm not giving away too much. All right. So question 5. Which current or former government official grew up in southern Arizona? Was it A, former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, B, Governor Doug Ducey, C, former Governor Janet Napolitano, or D, former Congressman Jim Colby? So which one of those government officials grew up in southern Arizona? All right, going on to question 6, coming down that camel's hump. All right, what Arizona city had the first drive-thru in McDonald's in the entire world? A, Phoenix, B, Sierra Vista, C, Tucson, or D, Prescott? So the first McDonald's drive-thru was where? All right. Moving on to question 7. The London Bridge is located in where in Arizona? Is it A, Bullhead City, B, Lake Havasu, C, Yuma, or D, Rio Rico? So where can you go visit the London Bridge? All right, coming into the home stretch, here we are at number 8. Speedway Boulevard was once labeled by Life magazine as the ugliest street in America. What Arizona city are you traveling through? Is it A, Phoenix, B, Yuma, C, Tucson, or D, Nogales? And that was a very famous issue. And they got lots of complaints. All right, number 9. What is known as the Hummingbird Capital of the world? Is it A, Prescott, B, Safford, C, Sierra Vista, or D, Benson? What is known as the Hummingbird Capital of the entire planet? And our last question is, the roof of the Arizona State Capitol building is made of what? Is it stone-coated steel? Is it B, nickel, C, gold, or D, copper? All right. So while you are locking in your final answers, we are going to take a little bit of an Arizona music break. And I'm actually happy to say today we actually get to share some music. I just got the okay from the artist about an hour and a half ago. So kind of excited to do that. So Elvis herselvis, better known as Lee Crow. Lee Crow grew up right here in the Valley of the Sun. And for one Halloween, dressed up as Elvis. Now, the next year, she had moved off to San Francisco, and Elvis herselvis was created. Now, Elvis herselvis was the first female impersonator sanctioned by Graceland, who was then later unsanctioned by Graceland because they wound up being booked. So Elvis herself was booked at the same event that Elvis Presley Jr. was booked at. And so Graceland pulled away that sanctioning. And so she still performs around. She's now still in San Francisco. Actually, her and her girlfriend Ruby put on a regular dandy, which is a drag king show. Amazing. I've been to see it. It's really good. If you're getting yourself to San Francisco, go to the Oasis Theater to see it. It is quite fun. And she is currently in a band called Velveta. Now, Velveta, we know, rhymes with Loretta. And if you're interested in any of their music, you can find it on iTunes or other streaming platforms. You can see the Bandcamp link right there. And we're actually going to hear a song called The Lost Dutchman's Mine, which is very appropriate for Arizona.
Old Jake Waltz was a miner at Patsy Junction way. They said he found a gold mine while riding out one day. He headed into town, his saddlebags filled with gold. Ready to take your baby ride. The old man never told. He can search and pray that you might find the hidden treasure on the mountain. Beware, cowboy, beware.
So that right there at the end was Lee and Ruby. And remember, if you like that, you can check them out on iTunes and other various platforms as well. All right, so we're getting ready to launch into some answers. And so let me unmute you so that way we can hear your beautiful voice. All right, so Tombstone, Arizona is famous for a gunfight at the UK Corral that took place back in 1881. And how long did it last?
30 seconds.
Wow, that was awfully, it didn't seem much longer than that.
30 shots in 30 seconds is basically what it was.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
So have you ever been to Tombstone?
I have actually. I actually just went there about a few weeks ago with my girlfriend and her children. It was their first time visiting, and they had an actual gunfight reenactment, and it was, 30 seconds, 30 bullets.
Nice. That must have been pretty dang loud. Just bang, 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 bang.
Oh yeah, and it was between the Earps and the I believe the Clanton McClurry gang. So
yeah,
they made bad choices. They paid for it.
They did indeed. All right. So then we have question 2, which is, what is the first and longest established LGBTQ organization in Arizona?
It is Tucson Pride.
So how did Tucson Pride form?
So back in 1970, it was founded in 1977. Basically it began with a tragedy, basically. It was the brutal murder of Richard Heakin. And he was a young gay man leaving the Stonewall Tavern. And on one evening in 1976, his attackers were, he ended up getting killed. And his attackers were only given a slap on the wrist. And because of that, the community rose, united, and rallied for change, officially forming an organization known as Tucson Pride. And it's been going on ever since, even through the pandemic.
Exactly. I know. Actually, I did a virtual program for them last year because nothing else. I mean, nobody was doing anything in person. So
Right.
All right. So then let's go to question 3. So 1902, Sedona, Arizona. Names originated from where?
It would be Theodore Schnebly, who petitioned for a new postal station in the area and named it after his wife. And those other answers in the multiple choice actually have history behind it as well. So the first Europeans did settle, had a Spanish expedition in search of rich Indian mines and discovered the Sedona area in 1583. Then Sedona began as a small remote ranching and farming settlement in 1876 when the first permanent settler, John James Thompson, squatted Oak Creek Canyon. And then by the early 1900s, 24 families lived in the settlement. And in 1902, Theodore Schnebly petitioned for the new post office to open, and then therefore named it after his wife, Sedona.
Very good. So I like that they were kind of tricky answers. So they all kind of had a connection to the area.
They did.
But only one of them is how it got its name. Well played. All right. Which planet was discovered at Flagstaff's Lowell Observatory back in 1930?
That would be Pluto, and it was discovered by Clyde Tombaugh. I'm saying that right. He's a farm boy from Kansas. In the observatory, Lowell Observatory was actually founded in 1894 by Bostonian Percival Lowell. That's as much history as I could find on that. So,
and so have you been to Flagstaff recently?
I have. I actually did a Pride tour, which was an Imperial Court benefit for Flag. It was part of the Pride tour, so Flagstaff Pride was one of the recipients for from our Pride tour. They did receive $2,000 because myself and my line partner raised over $10,000.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. And which current or former government official grew up in southern Arizona? I like you.
Sandra?
People just put. I like people were just putting the name of the town that she was in. Not even
Is
the
it
answer.
It's Duncan, right? I believe it's Duncan.
Some people said I think it's in that area, so it's like Duncan. Safford,
yeah.
kind of in that general area. So
Yeah. So Sandra Day O'Connor. So I thought that was kind of a cool little piece of history to have a Supreme Court justice that grew up here in Southern Arizona.
One thing I love is so she actually lived in a modern adobe house that was relocated to the Arizona Heritage Center here in Papago Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so actually they've done some basically they do you can I know groups have had conversations in there that are very kind of legislative or kind of social injustice, things like that. So I love that her house is still being used.
Wow, that's wild.
So all right. And what Arizona city had the first McDonald's drive-thru in the entire world?
That would be Sierra Vista. I grew up in Sierra Vista, and
I didn't know you grew up in Sierra Vista.
I did. I grew up in Sierra Vista. I lived there for over 22 years. So time I was 3 to about 25, I did live there. And the story behind the drive-through was the franchise owner in 1975 cut a hole in the side of the McDonald's, the restaurant. And the reason why the Fort Huachuca, the soldiers were the catalyst for it, because there was a standard order that they could not go out in public in their uniforms. So they just decided, oh, let's cut a hole in the wall, and that's what prompted the
exactly. Long before corporate said, oh, we should do this, he went ahead and did it, which I think is pretty cool, kind of showing that Arizona ingenuity and that gumption, and made it happen.
And I have another fun fact about Arizona and McDonald's.
All right.
Sedona is the only is home of the McDonald's with the turquoise arches. It's the only arches that are turquoise in the whole entire world.
And so, also Phoenix was home to the very first McDonald's franchise.
Really?
Yeah. So we had the very first McDonald's before Ray Kroc got involved. Actually, it was a gentleman who actually got it from the brothers. And so it was the very first iconic building with that very 50s slanted roof and the golden arches. And the brothers assumed he would call the restaurant Fox after him, but he named it after the brothers because he said, well, I bought everything. So it's because of Arizona that we have McDonald's throughout everywhere.
Wow.
So I just love how much McDonald's history there is right here in our little home state.
Right on.
Indeed. Okay. So question 7. Where is the London Bridge located?
Lake Havasu City. There's big history here with that. So I believe there was a gentleman in 1968, McCulloch, last name McCulloch, bought the London Bridge and moved it from England to Arizona to create it as a tourist attraction in the desert. So the bridge was erected in 1831 in London, and then let me see. And by the mid 1960s, it was when it was sinking to the ground at an inch a year, which is pretty significant. London officials needed to replace it, so McCulloch was looking for a way to raise the visibility of Lake Havasu City, a community that he was developing, on the edge of a man-made reservoir. So McCulloch paid $2.4 million for the bridge and $7 million to have its granite blocks disassembled and shipped across the ocean through the Panama Canal to Long Beach, California. Then it was trucked to Arizona and reassembled over a concrete structure. So, I mean, it's a beautiful bridge. I will say that.
It is. So have you seen the bridge recently?
I have not seen the bridge recently. I will, though.
You will?
Up.
Okay.
Yeah, yep.
It's well worth a visit because it's quite spectacular.
It is. It's beautiful.
And because of the bridge, there's all these little Edwardian villages kind of all over the
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it also has ties to Disney. The gentleman who designed Disneyland also designed Lake Havasu.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, so there's a little museum in Lake Havasu that's well worth going to.
Oh my gosh, I gotta check that out.
So yeah, I mean, basically it was chainsaw and outboard motorman that built Lake Havasu, and so
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, no, I mean Lake Havasu is I mean that although it's like you're when you go there, it's going to be really hot and humid there.
In the spring. So
Okay.
probably when it's kind of getting hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going for the next Arizona Pride tour. So
Very good. All right. All right. So question 8. Speedway Boulevard was once. I'm going to go ahead and mute you. So. All right, and then I'll bring you on when we got the question done. All right, because Christina is actually in the middle of an airport doing this. All right, question 8. Speedway Boulevard was once labeled by Life magazine as the ugliest street in America. What Arizona city are you traveling through? And that would be Tucson.
Yep,
Yeah,
Tucson.
Yeah, that picture is famous and started the whole Beautify America. And so this was kind of what caused the downfall of so many vintage signs across the country.
Yep. And from what I read was that the article began with a 2-page photo of Speedway at Country Club. The view down Speedway in Tucson support. There was the mayor back in that time who gave the opinion that it is America's ugliest street. And the ugliest street moniker stuck, and so Tucson had the ugliest street in America. And then came Life magazine and that whole tidbit. So,
but one thing I love is that Tucson has become such a hotbed of Chinese preservation. I mean, you've got the Neon Pueblo, as well as the Ignite Sign Museum, which is doing some really cool stuff and preserving signs from across Arizona.
The Ignite Sign, I have heard of that, and the Neon Pueblo I've not heard of.
So yeah, so it's that kind of mile. There are the 2 neon cactus, these 2 neon saguaros that bookend it.
Yeah. Yep.
And so they've redone like the Ghost Ranch, and so all these other neon signs. And so it was that was Tucson Preservation that did that as a way to kind of kickstart neon tourism, as a way to lure people to Tucson. And then Cook Sign Company started up the Ignite Sign Museum, which is really cool.
I need to go check that out. I did not know that.
Yeah. And so one of the really cool things they do is you can take a workshop where the neon that they're not going to use as they redo signs, you can take a workshop and make your own lamp out of those little bits.
Really?
Yeah, which okay, why don't we plan on doing that together some point? Because I know I can get my friends to come down, but I'm like, how cool is that to make your own little neon sign?
Yeah, I would love that.
Out of all these old other signs that were just sitting around in Arizona.
How much does it cost? Is it like
I've not looked into it, but whatever it is, it's worth it. I have no doubt.
Right.
I mean, to walk away with a one of a kind that is custom made by you.
Yay! I would love that.
Exactly. Not that I have room for it, but I would find room for that without a doubt. All right. What city is known as the Hummingbird Capital of the world?
Sierra Vista. And this was actually probably one of my most favorite parts about growing up in Sierra Vista was the scenery. So you have the riparian San Pedro Reserve, you have Ramsey Canyon, Carr Canyon, Coronado National Forest. So those hummingbirds, there's over 12 dozen different types of hummingbirds that do flock throughout Sierra Vista. And that's not even counting all the birds that come through there. I think there's over 300 types of birds that there's a lot of bird watchers that come out.
Yeah.
And it generates a lot of money for Sierra Vista.
Yeah,
I know.
I know we went down and stayed someplace where we could just like walk out the back door, and there was this little hummingbird land with feeders, and just sat there and watched all the hummingbirds come in and feed and zip off somewhere else.
Yep. Very beautiful.
Yeah, no, it is. All right. And our last question is, the dome of the Arizona Capitol building is made of copper.
And it's
And
equivalent. It's equivalent to 5 million pennies.
that's a lot of pennies.
And on top of the dome is what's known as the Winged Victory. My understanding is in the 1900s, local cowboys and wranglers spent Friday, Saturday evenings at the local saloons, what's now Old Town Scottsdale. And after a night of hard drinking, they would often entertain themselves with a ride to Phoenix to visit our state's Capitol building. Their agenda was to see if they could give Tess, Winged Victory, a twirl and bet how many times they could spin her around. And what they meant was loading up their guns and shooting at it. So it's my understanding it's been renovated so many times, the Winged Victory on top of that dome.
And I know they redid it for Centennial. So they redid the
Yes.
dome as well as Winged Victory. So
Yes.
so now she actually spins rather freely, because if you sit there and watch her, you can see her move and adjust to whatever direction the wind is blowing through, which is really kind of cool.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Well, Katrina, thank you so much. So where can people go see her perform next? Or how do you find out where you're performing? I mean, you said you're going to be up in Lake Havasu. So where else how do we find out where you're going to be performing?
My Facebook, Justin Deeper Love. You can actually catch me on there. Instagram, which is Justin Deeper Love. I will always post what I'm doing next, or usually I'll do it the day of. I'm always on the go. I was just in Busy Pride this last weekend. And then coming up, actually, I'm in Oklahoma, flying out there right now. That's why I'm at the airport. So I'm actually visiting my girlfriend out there, but she's also a fellow performer as well. So I'll be performing in Oklahoma tomorrow. But Phoenix, I will be July 18th at the Robin Banks show at C7. And then July 25th, we'll be with Lucinda Holiday's Hotspot.
Oh, nice. Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of your passion for Arizona with us. As we got to talk about Pride and all kinds of fun stuff. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your adventure as you get off to Oklahoma.
I will. Thank you so much.
All right. So you know the drill, everybody. The next question is going to be, well, how did you do? So I know some of you have already commented how you got some right, which you were kind of shocked by. And I see Sister Navajo is on watching us. We were just talking about you performing in front of the Window Rock Chambers for the Navajo Nation. And so, look at that. Pam got 9 out of 10. Wow. Way to go, Pam. So, thank you all for bearing with us as we go through technical difficulties. I'm not quite sure what happened. I hope things have kind of resolved themselves, but we still have more to talk about. Now, if indeed it is finally showing on Facebook, if you can click on that share and show everyone the fun we're having as we got a chance to talk about things across the entire state. I mean, from Lake Havasu to Tombstone. So Pam, that's exactly why I said, hey, Justin, do you want to do this? Because I was trying to get more stuff in Southern Arizona. So Pam, if you know anybody who would be really good on this, let me know, because I am trying to get more and more across the state. So now we get ready for show and tell. And so because it's our Pride edition, I'm actually going to show you, and let's see what the green screen does with this. Oh, good. Actually, nothing. Yeah, other than you can see my ring light. So actually, let's just go to this. So this is a cover of a book that is in Russian that was just published, which I literally got like about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And it's of an amazing story that ends in Arizona. Now, it starts with this gentleman, Nikolai Duralin, who grew up in Russia. In the 1890s, he winds up moving from Russia, coming to Chicago, where he gets himself a wife and a fairly good government job. He then winds up getting a divorce and marrying another woman, Anna. And from there, he contracts tuberculosis. And so, like so many people of that time period, this is back when Arizona was known for its clean air. So people would come here for that reason. And so he did just that. I mean, here is Nikolai. Now, he was of Russian aristocracy, so he was privileged. He traveled with his own doctor. And in fact, when he got to Phoenix, he was in this boarding house. As well as his doctor, he actually had a private bathroom installed in his room. I mean, can you imagine calling up the Marriott you're going to stay in and be like, hey, can you put another bathroom private so I can just have my own bathroom? So back in a place where people had to share bathrooms, he made sure that was not going to happen. Now, when he passed away, they were readying him for burial and discovered that Nikolai had been born a woman. And that really nullified his will, which was leaving his money to his wife, Anna, because they said, you're a woman. You can't be married to another woman. They then buried him in Greenwood Cemetery in a dressing gown and without a headstone. Now, that story went viral for the time period back in 1906. It was front page above the fold across the globe from Bisbee to Australia and back again. It was big news and everybody was trying to cover it. And so when I found out about his story and that he was buried right here in Phoenix, I went to go visit his gravesite when a friend said, hey, you should check into this story. It's pretty amazing. And this is what I found. Nothing. Not a headstone, nothing. And I knew it wasn't because he didn't have any money, because he got a stipend. And so I believe it was really to kind of squelch his unique story for the time period. So as soon as I found that out, started working with folks here in the Valley. So working with people, Trans-Spectrum of Arizona, my friend Erica, Kendra. We were also working with Miss Bobby out of San Francisco at the Louise Lawrence Transgender Archive. So folks across the airwaves. I mean, as we're emailing back and forth, we had a commemoration ceremony for him, and there is now a headstone. And so one of the things I love is that Eric had actually came up with this really great quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson that was also very time appropriate, because we realized you wanted to be true to who Nikolai was. And so the quote is, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. And so that's the only thing on his headstone other than birth and a date, birth year and death year. Now, in doing this process, we got some really great coverage from local news as well as USA Today, as well as, so just last week, actually within the last 2 weeks, it's popped up in a couple different Arizona Republic publications. And it's also up for an Emmy. I did a project recently with Cronkite School of Journalism for someone who was graduating with a master's in journalism, and and I think this was her final project. And so we did a video out at Greenwood, and they showed it on Cronkite News and then PBS. And they sent me a note, said, hey, by the way, we are up for an Emmy for it. So we will find out in September if indeed Nikolai wins an Emmy, which I think would just be amazing, that for really kind of that marginalized collection, or that marginalized voice now being so well. I mean, it's like the fact that the adversity he had to overcome back in that time period must have been amazing. And Pam, you're right. I did talk about it a little bit when I did a program with the Bisbee Library with Allison. So that was a lot of fun. And so also what's really cool is this book. So in kind of the whole learning about Nikolai, made contact with a guy who has written a book on Nikolai. It is the first book on a trans person in Russian. And so it holds that distinction as well. I mean, it's an amazing story. He spent 8 years researching, so I would love to be able to see what all he was able to find. So if anyone knows anyone who's Russian out there, I would love to hear from you, because I would love, I mean, he found some amazing resources. So next week, as we launch into July, as we get ready for that midpoint of the year, we are celebrating with Marshall Trimble. Now, in case you don't know that name, he is Arizona's official historian, where I'm the unofficial hip historian. So that's going to be a really fun episode with all kinds of fun stories. And it'll be the two Marshalls on. We haven't been on screen together. A few years ago, we did a PBS show together. So that was the last time we sat in the same space. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Exactly. It's going to be like the battle. So all the stuff he's talking about is not the stuff I focus on. And that's what makes it really great, is there are enough stories to go around. So that's going to be a really fun episode as well. And so that is July 1st, just getting you all ready for that July 4th weekend. Now, remember, if you have any questions, story suggestions, comments that you may not have been able to put into the chat, you are more than welcome to email them to me, because I love to hear from people. I mean, that's how I found Nikolai's story. Was a friend said, hey, look this up. That's actually where most of my best stuff comes from, is people saying, hey, you know, I know this little story, and then getting a chance to go off and find out more about it has always been really fun in doing exactly that. So I always like to give a big shout out to, of course, my cocktail advisor, PJ Bader Barron from the Hotel Valley Ho. The intro video that my friend Cole Travis wrote the music for, and Chris Allen did the video. And because this is kind of our Pride Spectacular episode, we are ending actually with Phoenix Pride. I think it was Centennial Year. It was 2012, when a group of a flash mob decided to do something in front of protesters at the entrance right there on Indian School. So this is featuring Todd Bailey and oh so many other folks. Thank you all for what you do.
It's all gonna be over one day, homo. It's all gonna be over. One day God's gonna put you in hell. Yeah, you, yeah, I'm judging you. You're not hard to judge. I'm judging you. Yes, I am.
There you go, yeah. Hi. You ask somebody how many diseases they have. I don't live in a trailer park, bitch.
God loves you. Of course he loves me. It's you we're concerned about.
Forgive him.
Disappointed that you're judging. I understand. Coming from a true Christian.
No, God's ashamed of you, you scumbag. God's ashamed of you. What are you? Huh? Why don't you take off your shirt like a man? Huh? Why are you wearing a bra, huh, big man? Why are you wearing a bra, huh? Huh, big man? You're trying to be a man over here with a bra on. A training bra at that. A training bra at that. Are you still in training? Are you still? You make sure you get those things the right form, okay? Make sure you get them the right form, okay?
Thou shalt not bear witness.
All these beautiful people out here. I love you guys and gals and transgenders and lesbians and whatever straight you are.
Happy Pride.
Are you ready, baby?
Yeah. You're beautiful, too.
All right, let's do this. Drop the music. Turn it up. Just put your paws up, because you were born this way, baby. Turn it up! My mama told me when I was young, we were all superstars. She rolled my hair, put my lipstick on, and like a humble dog. There's nothing wrong with it.
So thank you all so much for joining us. Have a happy rest of your June and have a happy Pride Month as we actually approach the anniversary of Stonewall, that considered to be the modern gay civil rights movement kind of catalyst. Now, it wasn't the first uprising, but it was the one the media grabbed onto. So have a happy Pride Month, and I will see you all here next week on July 1st with our guest, Marshall Trimble. Thank you all so much, and have a great night.